Good afternoon and welcome to Wednesday's Celtic State of Mind. Sincere apologies for the slight delay there. That's the usual technical glitch, which would only ever happen when the boss man is not here. I'm Chris McElwain. Paul John Dykes is obviously not here at the moment. He's off conducting very important Acsom business, which means he's probably having lunch with someone much more important than me. But no, it's all for the benefit of the channel going forward. And we do have some exciting stuff coming up this year. As it's Wednesday, I'm joined by the usual cohorts and the legend that is John Yogi Hughes and Patrick McGilp. Welcome, gents. Hope you're doing well. It's match day. It's a big one. Possibly one of the biggest ones of the season, if not, over the past few seasons. European night, we're going up against Bayern Munich, or in Bayern and München and Bayern, as McAnally used to say. It's a big one, boys, isn't it? And John, I'm going to come to you first of all, just because, as your old man was obviously part of one of the well, let's just be honest, the greatest Celtic European side in history. In terms of modern day, tonight's game, not only does it represent progress, but is this the biggest one in recent memory for Celtic?
Well, simply because it's a playoff, yeah. I mean, you would think so. And with that comes a team of the quality of Bayern. So very much roles reversed from the weekend. Hopefully, it's when you start looking at the stats and all, it looks pretty grim, but there are sprouts of hope potentially if we play the right way. So look, it's a massive game. I just hope that for the people that are attending, I'm absolutely raging. A mate of mine managed to get tickets at the last minute for us. I didn't want to take a ticket off my nephew, so because he goes to virtually all the games, so it just felt a bit unfair doing that, just coming in glory hunting in the the playoff stages of the Champions League. But you've got. I mean, if most of the guys, if you've got a ticket now, it's probably hospitality or something, probably costing you an absolute fortune. But I hope for everyone that goes tonight, there's a performance there that, I hope we don't get battered. I hope there's a performance to be proud of. And I think, to be honest with you, that's really as much as we can ask for if we give a good accounting of ourselves. We definitely don't have a Dortmund-style event. And we can do that, we can prevent that. We know how we can prevent it. We've seen it already this year at Atalanta. There are ways that we can hurt this team. But we've got to be realistic. We've got to be realistic about what our chances are here. It's difficult because your match day, you've always get the match day optimism. You're always feeling a wee bit high and a wee bit buzzed up, and you're just like, I can't wait for this and all the rest of it. And that feeling, as we know from previous experience, could last about 30 seconds. So, I certainly hope that's not the case, and we'll come on to the actual playing side of things later. But the crowd is going to be massive. They are going to be all hyper. It's a game like this is, despite the fact that sort of the defeatist element of it, which is it's not even defeatist, potentially even realist element of it, which pretty much harshes your vibe, as it were, as the hippies used to say, when basically you've got to accept that we're up against much, much stronger opposition. But the crowd are, will be going nuts, and hopefully let's keep that going throughout. The team showed incredible resilience against Aston Villa in that first half. Then, unfortunately, and it may well happen tonight, you just run out of steam because we don't have enough quality on the bench. These guys could bring on God knows how many £100 million players, but we don't have. If Brendan is determined to start making subs at 60, 65, I wouldn't. I would much rather have tired Maeda or a tired Dida or a tired Jota than have very much a shadow of them with fresh legs. So I don't think we need to just pull the trigger on that because that's something we do habitually. I think the guys, yes, the trackers might be showing they're tired, but let them be tired, let them run their legs off, you know. So, but it's like most sports, if you expend all your energy just hanging in there, you know, in the last quarter of a game, the chances are you're going to be exposed. And, you know, that may well be what happens tonight. But, you know, we've seen it before. Miracles have happened. Barcelona happened. You know, but it is very much, you know, it's not a miracle, but it's very improbable. And I think a draw would be a fabulous result. So I just hope the team do themselves proud. I hope the crowd do us all proud. And hopefully, you know, we come out of this with our heads held high one way or another.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with that anymore, John. I think you're right. That's somebody made a good point. Well, Monday was about enjoying the if Carlsberg did weekends, because what a weekend it's been. Yesterday was very much about building up an excitement, and I think today it's a combination of excitement and a little bit of anxiety. Patrick, as someone who is going to the game tonight, just get your take on, you know, Brendan's comments, which I thought were quite pertinent. He said he doesn't want Celtic Park to be a visitor's attraction, or you know, a notch on the bucket list for footballers, saying that they've came and enjoyed the atmosphere there. You know, he wants it to turn it back into Fortress Paradise or Fort Paradise, however you want to term it. But we want, certainly at home, and I know it's a different kettle of fish when you go away, but certainly at home, with the crowd, with the atmosphere, you know, bringing the thunder, all these different cliches. How important is it that the players on the park match the intensity of the crowd, and what can it take for the crowd tonight to try and give us something to hold on to by the time we get back to Munich?
Yeah, I think we need to sort of harness the spirit of, you know, Atalanta and Leipzig, and, you know, possibly even more games. As John said, the resilience of Aston Villa in that first half. I mean, we've shown that we can perform at this level. That's why we've got here. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of comments coming in. I think we've all sort of said it or thought it. You know, it's the biggest game in terms of how far we've gotten since Juventus in 2013.
Yeah.
Avoiding a repeat of the first leg of that tie would be pretty ideal. I think we lost 3-0 at home that night. But you know, I think the team that we have now is a better side than that Neil Lennon side. You know, you had Effie Ambrose, Kelvin Wilson, Azagiri. I think we're a better footballing team than we were 10, 12 years ago, as much as that team went on to achieve wonderful things in Europe that season. You know, in terms of defence, I think we obviously will need to ride our luck at certain points, like we did in Aston Villa, but we need to defend with our lives, like we did against, sorry, not Aston Villa, Atalanta. And then we know that we can hurt teams. You know, obviously, I'm sure we'll come on to talk about it. There's a front three, and we've got 4 really top quality players to fit into that front three. So, you know, I think Kuhn and Maeda are absolute stick-ons to play. I think it's whether or not he plays Maeda through the middle and Jota on the left, or whether he plays Ida through the middle and Maeda on the left. But, you know, we've got enough quality to hurt teams. You know, Hatate has come onto a game recently. Engels has been playing really, really well since December. McGregor, obviously, is capable of top quality European performances. So I think we just need to go into it in a confident manner. You know, we've seen that at Leipzig. The atmosphere was absolutely electric, and so was the performance. And then Club Brugge 3 weeks later, in my opinion, the atmosphere was quite flat, and we've seen a flat performance. So we need to be right behind the team, and I'm sure everyone will be. You know, it's the furthest we've went in Europe in 11 seasons. So we're hitting a good bit of form. We're in a sort of feel good moment, and yeah, any sort of result at all would obviously be positive. I think, you know, we're all in agreement. We're almost certainly not going to go through this tie, but to get any sort of result at home, and then maybe try and keep it respectable over in Munich on Tuesday, I think would be a really positive result. And you know, hopefully it's just an enjoyable evening, because that's what it's all about. I mean, we've achieved our goal. If we get, you know, maybe a team like Brest or Benfica or Sporting Lisbon, you could say, well, you know, maybe try and even get to the round of 16. But luck of the draw wasn't with us for this round, and so, you know, it's just about enjoying the occasion, and hopefully the team can sort of do us all proud. We can have a good 90 minutes, and at the end of the day, it is a 90 minutes, isn't it? I mean, you look at the Barcelona game, one of the best club sides of all time. and we had Miku up front. Now, no harm to Miku, but on the balance of probability, that should not be happening. So, it is 90 minutes. If we can perform at our absolute best and we ride our luck a little bit, Harry Kane, top quality striker, Bayern Munich, probably one of the top 5 clubs in the world. But if we get some sort of luck, we could maybe sneak a result, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. I mean, it is 90 minutes. Look, a lot of people have said it's just a pity we couldn't get what they term as an easier draw. But I think when you're at the table with the big boys, there's always a chance you're going to end up sitting next to one of the big boys, right? And that's the fact is we want to be at this table, come what may. So definitely, what's coming across in a lot of the socials and indeed the comments, which I'm going to bring a few up, is there is certainly a degree of optimism, and I think that's earned because we have shown progress in Europe this season. Let me pop a couple of the comments up and then I'll come back to you, John. We'll start talking about the lineup or potential lineup. So as is traditional, we'll lead off with Jungle Lion. Paul John off gallivanting again. No, it is genuinely for Acsom business, which is why he's left the reins for me, Jungle. But he's entitled to take a break as well, of course. Hardest working man in showbiz, as we always say. Joe Hamilton comes in. Hail troops, this is what we want, so let's see where we stand. Absolutely. And I think, it's about showing that we can compete and actually showing over the course of the 90 minutes what I think we've shown throughout, large periods in games, as you say, Patrick, the capability to compete and the capability to damage teams. So absolutely. Underwater Cabbage Salesman comes in. Hail, Wednesday is green and white. Absolutely. Well, to be fair on Acsom, every day is green and white. Jungle, you come back in. Could be a really special night, but we certainly dodged a bullet missing Madrid last night. For anyone that's not aware, Madrid did beat Man City, I think 2 late goals to win 3-2 down in Manchester. So yeah, they could have been our opponents. But come on, Jungle, we beat Man City back in the pre-season, so that doesn't mean anything. And a good one, chopped Pork Bob. Hi all, new to the channel and hoping for 2-0 to the Hoops victory tonight. Well, welcome to the channel, Bob. Really pleased to have you and hope you're enjoying the content. And last word here to Barry O'Sullivan. Morning all. Flight over this morning from Dublin was hopping. Can't wait to see the boys later. Hail. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the boys then. John, I think, that we always look to apply the rule of 3 for some reason in this team, certainly when it comes to the front 3 and the middle 3. Lots of different combinations. I think now we've got just that little bit more strength and depth. We've got Aramida on form. We've got Maeda stepping in, showing he can find the back of the net. Something that Liam Carrigan's been speaking about for the best part of a year and a half, if not 2 years. And, we've got Jota, who could either be on the wing or he could be on the bench tonight. But either way, I think we're looking pretty solid in a good few of the areas. In midfield, what combination will we see? Will we see the Kalmak, Engels, Hatate? Could we see McCowan come in as a surprise? Maybe Bernardo getting some minutes. What's your thoughts? How do you think Brendan will approach us tonight?
Well, first of all, listen, I'm happy that people are optimistic, but people saying, in the comments, "Oh, doom and gloom." That's not what I said. I said, "I hope we do ourselves proud." But I'm also not going to be stupid about it. Folks, this is the second favourites. So technically, it's according to the bookies, the second best team in Europe. So, yeah, look, there are things we can do to get a result in this game. But, people saying things, have at them. The worst thing that we could do is have at them. If we have at them, we'll be had. We'll be had early. I don't think people understand, if you've not been watching a lot of them, how good these teams are, especially relative to us. Because a lot of the time when we see them, they're playing other very, very good teams.
Absolutely.
So, very simply tonight, we cannot play our normal game. It's just as simple as that. And I'm sure Brendan knows this. Now, Brendan insisted the Atalanta game, there was no changes for the Atalanta game. Which I just refuse to believe. I think that was a mind game. Because, I've never seen us play such disciplined banks of 4 or 5 or whatever they were, depending on how far we drop back. But, I mean, we were the only time you see that is usually when people are playing against us. So we were incredibly disciplined that night. And that's exactly what we have to be. These guys play an incredibly high line. They pressure the middle of the field. Their pressures on the ball are light years away from anyone else's. So their pressing and their counter-pressing are in a league of their own, even in the best teams in Europe. So if we try and play out the back, we're going to lose the ball. If we try and hold it in the midfield for more than a few seconds, we're going to lose the ball. These guys are just next level. Now, essentially, this is going to be, let's just say, a modified version of the old Jack Charlton play the channels. Because they do play a very high line, and we do have elite pace up front. We can hurt them.
Yep.
Right? If we can dig in and play defensively and disciplined and not take any chances, not try and make glory passes, just be disciplined, wait for the counter-attacking opportunity and then pick them off, then we do have a chance because they will give us opportunities on the break. If we can get the ball to get a break, right? Yep. Because they are going to have probably 75 to 80% possession. That's the chances, the reality is that's what's going to happen because they don't sit back like other teams we've played. They will be pressing as hard, they'll be pressing as high, they'll be winning the ball back, they're going to make life incredibly difficult for us. So we need to dig in. It needs to be an incredibly disciplined and aggressive and, strong defensive performance. Backs to the wall stuff, they're going to have shots on goal. We need Kasper Schmeichel to have an absolute worldie, the same as other people have done before him, like Foster and so on. We need Schmeichel to pull it out tonight because the goal will be peppered. And, we need him to, play his absolute best. So, we can hurt them, but we need to be patient. We need to be disciplined. We need to hit them on the break. We need to play the ball behind them and just chase after it. They've got a goalkeeper that plays 30-odd yards from goal, right? But he's an old man. So, he's 39 going on 40. And, if you're playing it into channels with two incredibly pacey wingers coming after it, then, I think that gives him something to think about.
Absolutely.
So if we just need to get hold of the ball long enough to get it behind them. And that way we could maybe keep them back, keep the pressure off ourselves. But if we try and play the way that we play normally, we are going to be banging trouble. We're not going to have time to build play. We won't be allowed to build play. And we've already seen what happens. Our guys don't do well under pressure when they're being pressed hard, right, by quality teams. It doesn't go well for us. So we have to accept the fact that is going to happen. So get rid quickly and give it to anyone who's in space who can get it forward and then put them under pressure that way. It's the only way it's going to work. And that's why, for me, I think we'd be mad to play Ida. Especially initially, I think we need the fastest front three that we possibly have. I think we need to play Jota, Maeda and Kuhn, and we need to let those boys loose, terrify them with the pace, have Maeda charging down on the goalie. The guys at that age can drop off quite quickly. And, I was hearing some the other day that they were basically saying that he's dropped off the way that Joe Hart has dropped off. He was basically the worst goalkeeper in the pool stages.
Right? I've heard Manuel Neuer's been on, try and pronounce his name, Manuel Neuer has been subject to quite a bit of criticism in the last season for such a legendary figure. So,
But, he used to be a great goalkeeper. He's not a great goalkeeper anymore. And they're also asking him to play sweeper.
Yes.
On his own, essentially, because they're pressing so high. So, look, we can win this game, but we cannot win it playing the way we normally play. We have to accept the fact these are stronger opposition. It's backs to the wall like Atalanta. It's not letting them pass through the lines like Dortmund. Backs to the wall and set free the front three. That sounds like something to be graffitied in a wall over here. Three the front three.
Yeah. Well, it could very well. I mean, it could be the surprise that he springs. I mean, I think if we were to go with that, John, I don't think it would be any disrespect to Armida, who's been on some real good form since taking on the number 9 role with Kyogo leaving at the end of the transfer window. So I think he could still come on and play a very, very important part. But you're right. Maybe the best way is to unleash that pace, that trickery, that invention that I think those three players can bring, and all three of them. question marks over Jota's long-term fitness, but actually all three of them have shown in the last couple of games their quality, whether it be goals, whether it be assists, whether it be how much they're influencing the game. So definitely possibilities. But just to emphasise your point, I just want to run through some of the names that we could face tonight. So outside of the very obvious one up front is going to be Harry Kane, who I think somebody had mentioned it was round about 55 goals and 50 appearances for Bayern. So, while his form has been subject to scrutiny, he's a player that will get goals if you give him the opportunity. He's likely to have support from players like Musiala, Kingsley Coman, who's a veteran but very, very pacey and strong winger. Michael Olise, Leroy Sané on the other side, and we've still got Joshua Kimmich, who has been linked with huge moves to the English league this summer, but he's very much one of the star men in midfield, and somebody that I think we could, or we will be relying on our captain to try and help manage. As you say, despite maybe the drop off in quality, Manuel Neuer, Thomas Müller, for example, to absolute veterans, who could still come in and do damage. So, I mean, a lot of people have pointed to the fact that they only finished the Champions League with 3 points more than us, Patrick. But when you see some of those names, you realise the enormity of the task tonight. But I'm going to, caveat that point to say, was it any different when we beat Barcelona? Was it any different when we beat AC Milan? Was it any different when we, when we've come up against, teams of similar quality? Somehow when you're at Parkhead under the lights with the crowd going, you wouldn't bet against us to pull it off.
No, especially some of the nights we had. I mean, this season, and then going back to the sort of first decade we were in, the sort of new format, under O'Neill, Strachan, that one season we had under Lennon, as you say, with Barcelona. I'm sure it'll be an incredible atmosphere tonight. We've not, as I say, we've not reached this stage for 12 years, and we do have a quality side. We have built a quality side. Obviously, there are wee caveats. We've like Kyogo. Jota isn't up to full fitness yet, probably. So there are sort of wee niggling doubts, but I mean, we are a team on form. We won 5-0 at the weekend, albeit lower league opposition, but we won 5-0. Daizen Maeda's in the form of his life. I mean, I think we all said, he does an exceptional job, and if he was a footballer, he would just be totally world class. And he's now starting to show bits of being a footballer. So
taking it up a notch, hasn't he?
Could end up playing for Bayern Munich in a year or two. But to release him, and I am so tempted, as John said, to play him through the middle. My only concern would be Jota's fitness. I mean, he's came on for I think the last half hour in both of his appearances. Did he start against Dundee? I can't remember now.
He started the second match. He started the second match and he came off the bench on the match.
Right. So maybe not as unfit as I thought, but I think I've got a feeling he's going to go either through the middle and Maeda on the left, and probably Jota on the 60-65 minute mark. Either will still be in the game, and he can help us get something, and he can totally bust a gut for 25-30 minutes, or we're going to be 3-0 down, and he'll just bring a bit of positivity.
Yeah.
It's going to be one or the other, really, if and when he comes off the bench. But John's right. I mean, we do have, there are aspects of our team that are sort of geared towards hurting them. The pace in behind, the sweeper keeper. I know we also have a 38-year-old keeper, but he doesn't play 30-40 yards off his line. Certainly won't be tonight. I'd imagine he'll be in his 6-yard box for the vast majority of the game. And he, again, obviously has to have, one of the games of his career, possibly the game of his life, if we are to get anything. I mean, Harry Kane, obviously one of the best strikers of the last 10, 15 years, not just putting the ball in the back of the net, but a tremendous playmaker as well and getting up the park. I mean, his passing
comes deep as
unbelievable
well.
At times.
Yeah.
He can be a really sort of dirty player at times. He's a master of the dark arts, but he's obviously got tremendous quality. And Leroy Sané in particular, I've always been a massive fan. I was so surprised when Man City let him go. I think he is such a direct threat. He's so fast and he's got a brilliant shot on him. Those are the two guys I'm most concerned about. But the defence is there to be gotten at. It's not the Bayern of 2013 that won the Champions League at Wembley. Iron Robben, Frank Ribery, Neuer in his prime, Philip Lahm, Tony Cruz, Schweinsteiger. You've got you've got a different Bayern, obviously, as John says, probably second favourites to win the competition. One of the top 5 clubs in the world, probably have been for the last 40, 50 years. So we really are up against it, but it's as you say, it's where we want to be. It gets us so much more money than the other 2 European competitions. It's sort of like the holy grail at the end of the league season. It's why we want to win the league, to get into the elite competition and compete with these elite teams. Um, and it's how we're going to better ourselves, by getting that money and facing this top quality opposition more consistently.
Yeah.
And I think that's just in taking a long term view, that's where we have to be every season. I think we probably talk about it almost every week, but we do really need to be in this competition every single season,
Yes.
not just for the money, but once you reinvest that money either in the stadium, the facilities, the team, just to continue to attempt to compete at this level and hopefully get to this stage more often than not. I think getting into the competition is a bare minimum. But obviously, luck of the draw depends on whether we get to this stage or not. We obviously got that luck this season, and we've gotten to this stage. But hopefully, we can be regular, make a regular appearance at this stage of the competition.
And just what you
Yeah.
were saying, Chris, that
Yes.
you're saying that you wouldn't bet against us. That's because you couldn't get any odds betting against us. You know what I mean? If you're not betting for us, there's no point in betting.
Well, absolutely, but do you know what? I always think we perform best when the expectations are maybe low, and I think there certainly seems to be a feeling amongst certain media channels, particularly some of those coming out of Germany, that Bayern will absolutely do everything they can to avoid defeat against us tonight. I mean, they're well ahead, I think, in their league, ahead of Bayer Leverkusen. I think they can actually win the league in one of their upcoming games if they get a victory. So there was some rumours that they might rest a few players tonight, but I did hear from a German pundit on a radio show that actually he expects Bayern to play as strong a team as possible.
Well,
And it is a
was,
team full of superstars.
yeah, that was the to the point you were making earlier on. The one thing about this is, psychologically, we know we're in a massive battle. Psychologically, they're thinking this is pretty much the easiest draw bar win they could have got. So they're thinking, they've won a watch by drawing us. So, if we get into them basically in the nicest possible terms, and by that I mean just being very, very disciplined and, giving them nothing. If we can frustrate them, harry them, annoy them, all the things that teams try and do to us all the time. But, if we can do that successfully, maybe there's a psychological chink in the armour there, because they're not coming here expecting to, face the Real Madrids. So they're coming here already in their minds. They're thinking, this shouldn't be too hard, and they'll maybe expect a battle for a wee while. But the longer we can frustrate them, the more chance there is they slip up, they make a mistake, they get sloppy. So. You need to be thinking positively to think along those lines. So, you are thinking positively. But it's like any team, it's a 90-minute game. We're massively overmatched, but it's a sport, and the sport is not written in stone. Things happen. Favourites get beaten all the time. That's just the way it goes. People have off nights. People have off games. People have decisions go against them at crucial moments. And let's just hope tonight that's all Bayern and none of that's us, So let's hope the ref is a nightmare, but, entirely in our favour. It's awarding goals that go in through the side net and that sort of thing.
It would be refreshing, John. It really would if that was to happen. We're not used to getting luck in any competition, let alone the Champions League. Let me bring in some of the comments here, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the individuals that could be important. So, Barry, I'll bring you back in. Going for an exhilarating 2-1 win. God, I'd take that, absolutely. James...
Did he say who for?
Obviously the hoops. James, is it Kerwin? Karan? Apologies if I'm not pronouncing that right. I think it's James Kerwin. Celtic supporters need to make themselves heard tonight. Show their opponents that this support are 100% behind our team. We expect a sterling performance, nullifying Kane and defending is crucial tonight. I wouldn't disagree with that. Tony Ratton, hopefully the Green Brigade big voice tonight and beyond. And the players respond with skill, passion, and show some big game attitude. Come on, you boys in green. Paddy Lavery, he's joining Jim Orr and DFS for Sofas for this one. Absolutely. James, you can back in, get stuck in, get savage, get brutal, no tippy-tappy football. James is clearly in the dressing room. This is what Brendan will be saying. Direct shots from distance. We need to shock this Bayern team tonight. German pundits have already written us off in this game. Let's show them. Yep, I love the attitude. Mikey Boy, good friend of the channel. Hail, hail all. I'm going for 3-0 Celtic tonight because why not? Let's do this. Yeah, listen, absolutely. Why not? Why not? I just hope that we can get that belief after the game starts and keep that belief going. Liam Devine comes in. The thing that worries me is we're very poor at stopping crosses and relatively poor at defending them once crossed. Harry Kane is going to force us to sort that out. Well, we do have Carter Vickers back tonight. And the manager's been extolling his virtues. He's been talking about Maeda. He's been talking about how impressed he's been with Jota. John, I'll come to you first just with this point, and then we'll jump to Patrick. But who do you see as being some of the key men for us tonight? Who really needs to be on top of their game? And you can't see every one of them. So, who in particular?
Well, it's all the usual suspects, isn't it? Because our key men are always the same. So, but again, clearly, Brendan didn't have anyone from the executive team with him at Wraith Rovers. Basically, saying, "Do you know he's got an appeal on late on Monday night?" Because otherwise, I don't think Maeda would have played 90 minutes against Wraith.
Absolutely. I don't. I'm speaking only for myself here, but I can't imagine many of us thought we'd get that news.
But even saying that, even without that, I tweeted it tongue in cheek. I was tweeting. I think it was about, was it 75, 80 minutes? I said, I would throw on Narovsky or Bain up front before I'd risk Maeda for another second. And that was before we knew this news. So I just don't, I can sort of see what he was doing. He's not going to play. He thought he wasn't playing this week, so he was trying to give him a bit of a run out. But fortunately, it's Maeda. But the other issue with Maeda is, for all he's our best player, he also, when he gets tired and when he gets frustrated, he gets sent off. So we do have to be slightly worried about that. But again, I would say, Maeda is absolutely critical to the game. Kuhn's absolutely critical to the game. Ida, but Jota as well. I really hope he starts with those front three. I know everyone's saying he'll probably start Ida and Maeda on the wing. I understand why, but I don't think Ida's the outball for us tonight. Ida's not going to be holding stuff up against their back. Their centre backs. Their centre backs are, very quick, very experienced, very good at their jobs. I just don't see Ida holding the ball up to lay anyone off. We've got to get in behind them. I just don't, I don't think he serves a purpose until the second half, until we're trying to play a different way again. But so Maeda is absolutely crucial. Kuhn is absolutely crucial. Jota is absolutely crucial. Anyone in that sort of front three is absolutely crucial. And then, did you see? I can't say everyone. So, I was just thinking, I was working my way through the midfield there, thinking all of them crucial. Back
do you know what? It's a fair point. It is a fair point. It's very difficult to pick out individuals. I think I guess the point is, you spoke earlier, John, about who's got the weapons, who's got it in their arsenal to really hurt this team. And I think you're right. You talk about Maeda's ability to get in behind. You talk about Kuhn being able to cut inside and pull off an absolute worldie like he did. Jota, we know from his previous spell, he's a man for the big moments. And actually, even you bring on Ida. Ida's shown in the last couple of games that he can lead that line very well and actually get into the positions we want a striker to be in, and ready to receive the service. So I think, I guess one of the areas of concern might be if we're on the back foot and you're looking at players like Callum McGregor, who's been subject to a bit of scrutiny this season for his performances, particularly in Europe. But then we've also seen him play in Europe where he's been the absolute top man. So you're kind of hoping you get that Callum McGregor turning up and not one that maybe bullied off the ball.
See, the problem, the issue is with that Callum McGregor was had space.
Yes.
Right. So the teams that we were playing against, where he played a blinder, didn't see fit to mark him up and didn't have a didn't have a pressing game, the equivalent of these guys. So everyone in our midfield is going to be under pressure tonight. So, but I don't think, I mean, when it comes to people saying, do we play Hatate or whatever, I don't think that, that's, Hatate in this kind of a game, I think we need essentially defensive players, and I said the same thing before Young Boys. And, we did struggle against Young Boys. So, I mean, Tati wasn't responsible for that, though. I mean, he wasn't. It's not like he was terrible or anything. But against this team, I don't know. It's going to be so tight. Yeah. But Tati has actually been better defensively recently.
He's been more disciplined.
He has been more disciplined, and he can give you that bit of quality. But it's going to be a hard shift for everyone tonight. That's the bottom line. You want guys who are mentally prepared to dig in and just stick at their jobs. But again, if you're looking for someone to turn on a dime under pressure and put in a fabulous ball over the top, then Rio's got to be right up there. We just need him not to lose the ball at all. Prior to doing that,
it's a big ask. It's a big ask given what we see from Hatate. Yeah, but we have seen him on it though. We have seen him on it in Europe this season, where he's, I think it was against Leipzig, where he was basically dead on his feet by the end of the game. But what a performance he put in! It was very disciplined. It was very, very controlled, and he contributed massively. Patrick, I'm going to throw another one in at you. Player that's only just joined, Jeff. Oh, I was going to say Jeffrey, but it's Jeff Schlipp, I believe he prefers to be called. He's come in, obviously only just in the door. Maybe a big ask to ask him to come in and play left back in place of Greg Taylor, who's been obviously a stalwart of that position. But I know the games we've seen him, a lot of physicality, prepared to take a bit of ownership, showing that maybe that experience that represents one of the reasons why he was brought in. Would you take a risk on bringing in a player like Schlipp tonight?
No, not from the start. Not for me. I think it was after. It was the Wraith Rovers game at the weekend. Brendan came out and said he was getting used to the passing lanes, the sort of different movements of play that we play. So by the sounds of things, he's not entirely familiar with our system. Fair enough, our system's probably going to go out the window for large parts of tonight. We're just going to have backs to the wall. But I think it's a bit of a risk. I mean, he only met his teammates 11, 12 days ago. As much as I've got on Greg Taylor's back at times, and I do still think he's a weak point in the side. He is good on the ball. He does find Maeda. He sort of chips it directly forward up that line, like what John was talking about.
Just got a good system.
Channels. Yeah, and I mean, if we are going to have 11 men behind the ball, you're hoping that he's going to have a bit of support when he's defending. Hopefully, the only danger is getting caught high up the park, I think, or maybe some sort of physical battle, maybe in the air. I think that's where Jeffrey Schlupp is really superior. And hopefully we won't be caught too high up the park tonight, because I think that's when they could potentially hurt us. I'm not sure who they're likely to have on that side. Maybe Kingsley Coman, which would be just a terrifying thought, really. But yeah, no, it's not someone I would take a risk with. Just in terms of sort of doing, the club and the team doing itself proud, and just kind of keeping this run and this record going. I mean, we've obviously been unbeaten at home in the Champions League this season. If it wasn't for a last minute goal for Lazio last season in the first home game, would have been. I mean, it's a big caveat, but would have been unbeaten there as well. One last minute goal, and then go back to Angela.
Yeah, just going to say it was actually something that was picked up by Vincent Kompany, the Bayern manager. Said they couldn't remember the last time Celtic lost a game at home in the Champions League, so they're very aware of it.
There you go. And you obviously had Shakhtar, the three Ange games that we had. Disappointing results in the end, I think, for all three, but we did get a draw in the last game against Shakhtar, so that's a pretty decent record of undefeated in 7 of our last 8 games, and that one off was a 90th minute winner. So we are building up a really fine record. It's obviously not quite a fortress, and I'm sure Bayern are one of the few teams in the world that could get by any sort of fortress away from home. But we are building up a very respectable record, which I think is what we all wanted in the last sort of 10, 15 years. We were embarrassed home and away several times. I mean, 3-1 defeats at home to Molde.
Yeah.
In that 15-16 season, I think was a real low point. Obviously, the COVID season that we all try and forget about, 4-1 to Sparta Prague. I mean, it was diabolical at times, but we have really been building these last 4 years. And to put in a really good, respectable performance, and any sort of result tonight would just be outstanding. And they've only got one out of four in their 4 Champions League away games. Albeit they did play Barcelona in one of those games, but they did lose 3-0 to Feyenoord. They lost 1-0 to Aston Villa. Obviously, no shame in that. Aston Villa, great side at home.
Yep.
Get beat, I think, 4-1 from Barcelona away from home. And I can't remember which away game they won, but obviously only won 1 out of 4. So, if they can continue on that form and we can continue our good home form, fingers crossed we can grab something tonight.
Absolutely. Yep.
No,
I think
that's a playing. You're talking about Schlupp there. The thing about Schlupp is it's so early in his career. We basically don't know what level of fitness in. The 2 games he's played were canters, right? And he's coming on. The game's one handy, and he's essentially. I mean, I used to think Greg Taylor was inverting. There were times that he, from left back, was playing in the right midfield. Do you know what I mean? There really was. I was watching him.
I couldn't figure out what position he was playing.
So far over. So we really know nothing about him other than his previous history. In terms of what he can do for us, it's completely unknown. It would be great if we sorted this out earlier and we had a big physical presence that could defend crosses and wasn't going to be susceptible to diagonal balls at the back post. So that would be great, but we've no idea really at this level. So I think it's, I think it's difficult. Someone's saying his fitness scenario is identical. No, we've seen Jota. We know that Jota looks far fitter than he thought he was. But I did say, I think this is an exception, I did say that Jota would come in and emotion would carry him through the first couple of games and then he'd probably drop off a cliff until he got back to whether this would be the game technically where I said he'd drop off a cliff. But I think there would still be enough emotion there for him to power through. But we've seen enough of Jota to know they can do it. I don't think we've seen enough Schlupp at all to know really anything about whether it's safe to put him in tonight or not. Obviously, the manager will, so we'll see what happens. But it's anyone who is a feasible reserve off the bench tonight is probably going to get time because the guys are going to be shattered.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be hard work.
You don't hold a team like this for as long as that without giving it absolutely everything you've got. So, it's a pity we don't have like 10 coming off the bench. Even Casper might need some tonight. So, but look, as we say, it's going to be a difficult game, but it's not. And as Patrick quite rightly pointed out, they're not going to be, basically convinced that that they're, this is going to be. They're not going to be convinced that we're going to be able to put up a fight. So, despite what the manager's saying, he's paying lip service to our home record, but I think those players will just be thinking, well, look, anything happens, we'll get them in the next leg. And we used to see that before with the 2-leg thing, where they'd come to your home ground and they'd maybe try, maybe not, because they'd be absolutely confident they'd get you in the reverse. I'd be surprised if that's the case tonight, though. But they're a very, very good side. So things need to go right for us, and let's hope that they do.
I guess I've got a wonky iPad here. It keeps slipping down. No, I would agree. John, I think discipline, mentality, concentration, I think these are all they're going to be. They're kind of the key buzzwords, but they're there because they're important tonight. And I absolutely think we need that. Let me bring in just a couple more comments and then we'll talk a little bit about,
Hey, can I just reply to one comment, which basically I was saying that you're asking them what I'm basically asking them to do if we're not playing Ida is play through Bayern, which is much more difficult. I don't think you listened to what I said at the start, or maybe you're unfamiliar with Jack Charlton. No, I said play the channels, and I didn't mean play through. I mean play over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not I'm seriously not discussing playing through. I don't think playing through them would be incredibly difficult given their passing game. I think we need to play balls from deep and early, and over the top and just make them chase. And hopefully if we do that, then that opens up space in the midfield, which allows our guys to maybe play a bit of a game without them pressing them to death, because what they do is they contract the game to the final 40 yards where you've got no space at all. So, that's what I'm thinking that we'll be trying to do, is play over, play early.
Absolutely. No, I think that makes sense. All right, let's get some of the comments coming in now. Scott Dougal comes in and says, agree, got to be realistic, but no need to fear them. This is exactly where we want to be in Europe. I think there's merit in that comment. If you're here, at some point, if you want to progress, you're going to have to play against the top teams, and there's no doubt Bayern are one of them. Barry McCormick, just hope we give a good account of ourselves, and Bayern need to really work for anything they get. No silly mistakes. That's the fear in it, John. That's the fear that you get that lack of discipline early on, and it puts you right on the back foot. They really need to be on their game from the start, particularly defensively. Colin Bean comes in, 100% effort and a credible game plan. It doesn't matter if we lose. Meek capitulation would be the greater sin. But still, wouldn't be happy with a loss. But I think you're right. You don't want to see us capitulate. Something you spoke about earlier, John. Bob came in twice there. Big Smoke 67, hail. Maeda can cause chaos with his size and speed tonight. Midfield need to stand up and be counted. I think that's a fair point. We do need the midfield to support the front three and really try, if they can, control that flood, which undoubtedly Bayern will push. Tip O'Neill comes in. Hello, Double Denim. Hello to you as well, sir. My first time in Acsom, and hail to one and all. And right back at you, sir. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us. Urban Culture comes in. Good day to fellow Acsom addicts. Better late than never. We'll let you away with that one, Urban. You're a long-standing member here. Barry O'Sullivan, I think that's a good attitude. We don't know when we'll be here again, so let's enjoy it. Well, I'm confident we'll be here next season, so I'm gonna stick with that. Guys, Brendan was talking about the fact that Carter Vickers is returning tonight. I mean, he's been so important for our defensive resilience, albeit he's been subject to a wee bit of criticism this season as well. Patrick, how important is it that both him and I think it looks like Austin Trusty tonight are really on their game? Because, as we said earlier, silly mistakes, you don't get away with them at this level. And even if it's just allowing a shot to come in, you get the deflection, as we saw against Villa when Morgan Rogers hits one and Scales tries to block it. They really have to be solid tonight, don't they?
Yeah, they absolutely do. Carter Vickers is sort of Mr. Reliable, Mr. Dependable, but we're obviously playing a team, above our level. So I'm sure even he would not struggle, but I mean, it's going to be a difficult game, and we'll all need to be at our best to even have a chance. Him coming back is obviously crucial. We've seen countless times important European games, and this speaks to, we were probably all quite unhappy. We sort of missed one or two targets at the end of the January window. But in seasons gone by, we have been totally mal prepared for games like this. I mean, going into qualifiers with Beaton at centre half year after year, wait until the 27th to the 28th of August to sign players because we know that the Champions League money is or is not coming in. Just a total, just been totally unprepared going into these games. And luckily we're certainly getting better at that. The processes that have led to this stage maybe not perfect, but we've basically got a first 11 that we're quite happy with going into arguably the biggest game of the season. So in terms of preparedness, we can't really ask for much more, but apart from maybe a striker. But Carter Vickers obviously will be crucial to that. The man behind him, Kasper Schmeichel, he'll be crucial to that.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just Obviously, with injuries, it is partly luck, but we are fortunate to have, near enough a full squad ready. The only difference I would say, I think, in this season is, you probably have maybe 8 or 9 players who you think, they're maybe not Bayern's level, but they're Champions League quality players. Guys like Hatate, Engels, McGregor, Kuhn, Maeda, Carter Vickers, Schmeichel. There's maybe 1 or 2 weak points. Um, in seasons gone by, you'd maybe only have 4 or 5 of them, but the squad was sort of more well rounded. Whereas our bench, I mean, the golfing quality is just it's frightening. I mean, you've got Jota probably coming off. Bernardo's a decent option. Scales is a decent option compared to Trusty. But you're then looking at guys like Yang, 33-year-old James Forrest. I mean, in terms of recognised strikers, you're looking at Johnny Kenny and Daniel Cummings, who have barely played any first team action. Guys like Dane Murray, who I think Brendan highlighted at the weekend post match interview. That was his first game at Celtic Park in about 4 years.
Yes.
He's been out injured and he's been out on loan and he's played away games, I think, and some friendlies. But the golfing quality between our first 11, which is really good in comparison to previous seasons, and the bench, which is really bad compared to previous seasons, is quite frightening. So as John said, at the top of the show, these guys need to run themselves into the ground and run for as long as possible, because as soon as those other guys come on, no harm to them, no offence to them. I think you've got very little faith that they can do the same job as the guys that they're replacing.
Yeah.
But going forward, I spoke earlier. We need to be at this stage. You said, Chris, you've got faith. We'll hopefully be at this stage next season. I think we've got a playoff next season. Hopefully, I think we've got enough to get by that. In my opinion, I think we're seeded. It will be hopefully a relatively favourable draw. And I think the account showed, was it yesterday, day before, 65 million in the bank as of 31st of December. So we have plenty of time to scout players. We've got plenty of money to buy players. So there's no excuse not to qualify again next season. I know we're jumping the gun a bit, but we do have a really good first 11. But looking to that bench, bringing in some reinforcements. Obviously, Tierney. It's not been tweeted. There's no Celtic statement, but Brendan has said it's practically over the line. So
it was in the interim report, apparently. So apparently it was in the interim report. So apparently it's coming. So it was confirmed. I read that earlier. Well, so hopefully that's true.
Until he's got the scarf over his head, I don't believe it. But,
I'm the same.
Sorry, what was in the interim report, Chris? That's not the kind of thing that would be in an interim report.
It was an article on mainstream media. I think it was actually on BBC. John saying that he had been the signing had been announced on the interim report. I'll see if I can find the article.
Just on that point you're making, Patrick. So the one place where we are the envy of the majority of teams in Europe is in the finances. It's the one place where we are elite, and that includes all of Europe. There are maybe a handful of teams who are as profitable as we are, and fair play to our fans for making that the case. What I would say is, though, we have far too much money sitting in the club. If it wasn't for Dermot Desmond's determination to stay where he is, we probably would have been taken over and assets stripped already. You cannot be sitting with that much cash on the books and not have the vultures circling. So, we're fortunate from that point of view. But the what I would say is we need to spend that money on infrastructure. So we need to spend that money on things that generate income. So very much like the way that we have 10,000 more seats than those people, our rivals in the city, Queen's Park. We've got we do have a few more seats in Queen's Park. To be fair, sorry, I don't know where I was getting 10,000 from. I was getting confused with another club there. But basically, we need to be looking at things that generate money over the medium to long term. But included in that for me isn't just the buildings or doing stuff with hospitality and doing stuff with the stand. All of that needs done. Some of that though is incredibly expensive. So but the way that the balance you have to strike here is if we have to spend 50, 60, 70 million on a stand, which is some of the the projections that are out there, because it's so expensive to replace things now, especially with the cost of everything, the materials and all now. So wildly expensive. But if we have to do that, then we have to spend an equal amount on recruitment and scouting, because the only way that stand is going to be full is if we are playing to a level that keeps people excited and keeps them wanting to come back. That we're making real progress in Europe. We're always in the playoff stage. We're getting ourselves in with a chance of the latter stages. That's the goals we need to be building towards. And for me, the infrastructure is vitally important, but just as important, I don't understand why we're sitting with that much money and we have a Mickey Mouse operation in recruitment and scouting. It really is tin pot. And we have to be. I can't understand why we just can't. If you threw a few consultants in there, they'd say do X, Y, and Z. This is the structure you need to build. This is what needs to be done for the long term. We've got piles of money for that. It's only wages.
I think, John, you'll find the term is hunters of money.
Hunters of money. But, hunters of money. It's even transfers, but it's only piles of money because these aren't players. So we don't need to spend hunters of money on them, but we do need to have a proper structure. We do need to be much, much better at it than we currently are. We have the facility to do it, and that's the really frustrating thing. We need to be picking up European quality players so that in games like this, we have guys coming off the bench who can make a difference, and come on and impact a game, not guys who you're hoping don't make a dreadful mistake and just, hope they get in the way of the ball for the last 15, 20 minutes, So,
absolutely.
The club is brilliant at certain things, but then it's wildly frustrating that we've done so well and yet, don't seem able to, spend the money where it's appropriate.
No, I would agree with that. And John, just on your earlier point, so there was the chairman's, the CEO's statement, I think Peter Law's statement that came out on Celtic's website saying, during the January 2025 transfer window, we acquired the permanent registration of Jota and the temporary registration of Jeffrey Schlupp. In addition, we extended the contract with Kasper Schmeichel and entered into a pre-contract agreement that will see Kieran Tierney return to Celtic in July 2025. In the same paragraph, we disposed of the registrations of Kyogo Furuhashi, Alexandro Bernabei, and placed Lewis Palmer, Odin Holm, and Stephen Welsh on loan. So
that's the chairman's statement, was it? Sorry, I missed the first part.
Yes, that was the chairman's statement based on the interim report. So it is on the Celtic website if you want to take a look at that. Let's get a few comments in, and then I'm going to get predictions off the guys for tonight. So let's see, where did we leave off there? Robert Highland comes in, just to reinforce your point. If we try and go toe-to-toe with them, we will get hammered. I think that's fair. I love this from Sharon. Welcome to the channel, Sharon. We're getting up at 4 a.m. to tune in over here in Albany, and we're sure it's going to be worth it. I certainly hope so, Sharon. Good effort. Aaron McNeil comes in. McGregor has to be his best tonight. I would completely agree with that. Big responsibility on the captain, but we do know that when he's on his game, he can influence it. So fingers crossed that's what we see tonight. Sorry, Robert, I think that was the wrong one I brought up there. Stuart Ramsey, who's got the weapons in their arsenal. I think I've seen that movie. Yeah, I know. I'll need to get that one on a t-shirt. Ewan Moore comes in. Cal needs to be on it big time and needs to be compact in there. Cal cannot get caught ahead of the ball. Nearly cost us big time a few times in the Champions League, and Musiala would take advantage of Cal's not at it. I think that's a fair comment. Chilpil comes in talking about Hatate. Hatate needs to make sure he doesn't give the ball away. And then there was arguments for both. Chilpil comes in and says Greg Taylor starts all night long, but Joe comes in and says it has to be Jeff tonight. But I'm loving Joe's positivity. 3-0 Celtic, Schmeichel man of the match. And then another friend of the channel, Martin Davey, someone I had the pleasure of meeting at one of the live events along with his good lady. Afternoon, guys. Welcome. All right, Patrick, I'm going to start with you. We've more or less talked about the most of the key positions, but give me your projected starting lineup tonight, and then give me your score prediction.
God, I'll go for score prediction first. I think it'll be quite an exciting game. I'm going to say 2-2. Starting 11, I think it does largely pick itself. I'm going to go for Kasper Schmeichel. I think you've got to go, assuming they'll pass.
You're going for Schmeichel? Surely Sinisalo deserves a chance, Patrick.
Well,
what are you talking about?
I'd maybe stuck Scott Bain in there, but last minute change of heart there, John. No, I would have Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, Trusty, and Taylor. McGregor, Hatate, and Engels. Hatate in particular really does have to track back to the defensive job, not give away silly passes, because it's one of the more frustrating parts of his game, particularly at this level. We will get caught out, so you're not to pick on him, but that's crucial tonight. And I'm going to go with Maeda, Ida, and Kun, because I think that's what he's going to go with. I think if we start Jota, he's probably going to have to come off at half time. I think he would come on in the second half and be tired, and we're going to have to take him off 60, 65 minutes anyway. So I'm going to go with Ida through the middle, Maeda on the left, and then 60, 65 minutes in, after Ida's run his heart out, I'll say Maeda through the middle and Jota on to give us something to be positive about, or to give us that that sort of final push to try and get a result, one of the two. And I'll go for a 2-2.
Nice, I like it. I wrote 2-2. John, same question, mate.
Yeah, I don't agree with the upfront. Obviously, I would go Maeda. I would take the opposite opinion. I think the best chance of getting anything out of the game is to get it early. So you'd hope we can get something early. Just a couple of goals will be fine. Get that early, and then we hold on. So yeah, I would be happy with any sort of a draw. So where it's 0-0, 2-2. But given the way that both these teams play, I would say if we get a result out of this, it'll be a score draw, and a relatively high score draw. It could be 2-2, it could be 3-2. So the one thing that Joe, who was predicting 3-0, the one thing he was right about is if it is 3-0, Schmeichel will be man of the match. He's absolutely right about that. So, but yeah, look, we've all got that combination of someone on said there, John, I've given you the fear. I actually, believe it or not, that was a moderate version of some of the stuff that I've been looking at, and some of the stuff I've heard through the matchup. But you should have the fear. I think having the fear in these games is good, because in something like this, again, a pessimist is never disappointed. So, you go into this game hoping we get a result of some description. And if we do pull off a result, and it was any more than a draw, that would be one of the best nights in modern history, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So you're potentially going to a historic game tonight. But even if it's not historic, let's hope that it is one we can be proud of. We take points away, and we make them think about what they're going to do against us at home.
Absolutely, yep. No, and John Hartson echoed that. He said, "Give yourself the best chance of taking something back to Munich, something to hold on to." So fingers crossed. I'm going to finish with Liam Devine's comment. It's nights like these that legends are made. I mean, there's the team talk straight away. Guys, thank you very much for that. Joining me today on A Celtic State of Mind on Wednesday. I do have a couple of obligations, because this is the only reason the boss lets me on if I do this sort of stuff. So just want to plug our upcoming live event, which you can now find on the new Acsom website if you go to the live events tab. But our next one is with Johan Mjällby. And by the way, never stand next to Johan Mjällby, because it just does nothing for your self-esteem. But he is going to be live at Grace's on the 27th of February. And the tickets are £15. There's still plenty of tickets left there, so please take a look and come along and join us. And even if you don't want to see Johan Mjällby, a good chance you might see Paul John, myself, and probably someone like Jim Orr there as well. And who could resist getting a picture with Jim Orr? I mean, honestly,
can I just say, the comments I was right. It is nights like these legends are made. That yes, said, I did promise my missus I wouldn't drink the whole bottle of vodka this time. So, not a total legend like usual.
Absolutely. Well, I am pulling double duty tonight, so I am hosting again the match coverage. I'll hopefully be joined by Sean Connolly. As always, some effort for the man to get up that early from Australia. So we will be covering the match from about 7:30 tonight. Hope you can all join us, those who aren't going to the game. For those who are going to the game, please stay safe, enjoy the match, and hopefully, as John says, you will witness history tonight and something to remember and tell the grandkids about many years from now. All left for me to say is say thank you very much to the 1,500 strong that joined us, everyone who added comments. Again, apologies, I couldn't get through them all, but I'll see if I can get through a few more tonight as we go. It's match day. Mono Hoops. Hail, hail.
Here we are.